I tell people when they look at my career, they tend to look at LinkedIn and they go, "Oh, I see. You went from analyst to manager to director to CFO." And they go, "I want to be just like you. Can you tell me what your secret is?" And I
Mhm.
say, when you look at it like that, it looks like a ladder, like someone just climbs a couple rungs and you get to the top and voila, it all
Mm.
happened. But when I think about my journey, I often tell people it's not something I read in a book. It's not something I heard on the radio. It's not something I saw on a TV show. I lived it. It's a part of me. It's who I am. And my journey is not so unique. It just has pieces of everyone else's journey in it. And for me, it starts back like most people in my childhood, which was a non-traditional childhood, being raised in a divorced home in a family that didn't have much money. I tell people my early schooling, although I was identified as gifted and talented, that didn't manifest itself right away in terms of grades after I had some choices on whether to do homework. So it was a little bit bumpy early on in my life. I was really dealing with a lot of cultural and family difficulties. So I say I dropped out of high school. I dropped out of college at one point. I was raised by a single parent. I became a single parent,
Mhm.
and I lost some siblings at an early age to both murder and to suicide. And all of those things were just before I even started my career. And then even after starting my career, even though the journey looks very typical, I faced a lot of problems throughout my career in terms of not understanding how my skill sets matched up with the needs of every job I was in, working to get to the next level. I remember striving to get to manager and director. And I tell people, I remember the day I decided I wanted to go from manager to director and that I was qualified and ready. And yeah, it didn't happen for another 6 years after that particular date. And it was the same with every other title and every other opportunity. I really had to work hard and be resilient and push through some hard things. But that's why I think it's important that we embrace those stories from our early childhood in our life, because those are stories that make me who I am, both as a worker and as a leader.
It's so powerful to hear you say that, and we're so thankful that you're open and honest. I feel like it's a gift that you're sharing with us and now our audience, and how those early moments, usually people are trying to kind of run away from those, right? Like I'm going to be the opposite of that. I don't want anyone to know those things. And that comes up quite a bit in a lot of our work now with our individual lawyers, where maybe they're first gen and they're like, I don't want anyone to know that I don't fit the traditional mold, if you will. And it's really, I think it's really important that other people get to hear successful people like you share, like, oh, no, 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 like I don't fit the traditional mold either, and here's how you can also still be successful. So I love that we're getting to share that story.
I love that you have a podcast that tries to reveal and open up about those stories, because I
Mhm.
know when I was on my journey, I thought everybody's life was buttoned up and perfect,
Mm.
and they'd only followed a traditional path. And so
Mhm.
one of the reasons as an introvert I speak about my story is because I just feel like we need to help each other. We need to give back from our experiences. And I think the world and our businesses will be a better place when people start embracing the things that make them who they are. And if I can do one thing while I'm in this role and sitting in this seat,
Mm.
is I'm going to give back to others who may identify with my story in whatever way, whether they're a single parent, whether they're struggling in school, whether they had a non-traditional path, because I think that them opening themselves up to the opportunity to hear what it means to be resilient and to be your authentic self will help us to bring more of those people into leadership positions. So then that can recycle itself over again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We're
Yes.
like, yes, so much
Yeah,
so.
I
And
would
absolutely.
love to see that more and more and more. Yes.
I don't, I think what's so interesting, and I don't know if it's my attitude and how I was being buttoned up, and I talk about this quite a bit on the show about how my experience in big law, but the further away I get from being in my corporate life, the more people are sharing with us and sharing with me, and that there's really is, I don't know why we're all still hanging on to this prescribed thought of everyone being buttoned up, because I keep meeting more and more people who are not, right, who are like, oh no, I didn't follow that path. um so one of the things that you also mentioned in the prep, and I don't know if you have anything to say, I just wanted to raise it, is people, I think, ask you a lot, like, why finance, right? It's just, you just like love money, like love numbers, or like love, is that how your brain works? And I think you said something kind of interesting during our prep that, and I thought maybe if you're comfortable sharing it, I'd love to hear like how you wound up in finance. How
No,
did
I
all that
mean,
happen?
like I said, I was on a different path altogether,
Yeah.
where I was working in retail. I tell people I had a job during the day at what is now CVS and a job at night at Athlete's Foot because I loved having new tennis shoes, which I still love having new tennis shoes.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever see me, I almost always have on new tennis shoes, or else I throw them away. Um, and I really and working jobs and being a single parent, I tried every path that was possible to make money without getting my degree. And at some point when I was working in the mailroom of a law firm, I realized that I wasn't going to be successful raising my child, and having the success that I wanted out of life unless I went back to university. So I went back to university, and I really, again, it seems so painfully like, how could I not know what to major in college? But
Sure.
really, I had almost zero guidance. I didn't know anything about engineering degrees, or I knew the classes we took in school: math, science, English, and whatever.
Right.
Majors were a whole different thing. But I
Mhm.
did know one thing, that I needed money and I needed to
Mm.
make money. I was on food stamps. I didn't have enough money to pay for daycare. I didn't have enough money to feed my child. I didn't have enough money to put a coat on his back.
Mm.
And I said, I think I need to understand how money works in this world.
Mm.
And so I picked the only major I knew that dealt with money, which was finance.
Right.
And it turned out to be somewhat of a calling, I would say, on my life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's follow your curiosity, wanting to know more about something. I didn't know you worked at CVS. I also worked at CVS.
Well,
Was
and
the people's
I'm dying to
drugstore back then. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
worked
dying
in
to
the
know
pharmacy. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
what shoes are you wearing today, William?
I don't. I'm at work, so I don't have on, a pair of my new white tennis shoes. But
Mm.
later
Oh,
today,
I was hoping behind the nice white, crisp white shirt and tie
I
there was
thought
a
about it. I thought about it. I looked at them at the door when I walked out. I was like, you know what? Got these bankers meetings. I can spice it up a little bit.
yeah.
That's definitely one way to stand out.
So, William, you've been public about the lessons you've learned also in protecting your well-being,
Mm.
and that it took you a long time to establish better boundaries, which I think is something that will resonate with a lot, if
Everyone,
not all of our listeners here, including the Megan and
tell
me.
us. Yeah.
If you could change one thing about the legal profession to
Mm.
better support a professional's well-being, what would it be, and how would you go about making that change?
That's a great question. And first of all, I love, love, love my boundaries.
Mhm.
I find it to be a superpower. I find that it makes me a better worker, a better father, a better husband, a better human being to others.
Mm.
I'm able to deal with so much adversity when it comes up because of my state of mind and the state of my well being. That, setting my boundaries, which was probably difficult at first, has had a reinforcing impact on my life in terms of my production and what I'm able to do at work. And I think that, when I say setting boundaries, for people who don't know, it's about knowing how to carve out time in your workday for yourself, and whatever that may be, whether it's reading, whether it's coffee, whether it's smoke breaks, which I don't encourage, but
Sure, sure, sure.
um, but for
Outside break.
me, it's recharging,
Mhm.
because of the introvert part of my
Mm.
personality or
Yes.
characteristics, that I need time alone. And I need to box it off so that when I do have to be in a team environment, which I also enjoy as part of producing at work. I love being on a team and us rowing in the same direction. But in order for me to contribute to that team, I have to be fully energized and bring my full brain, physical capacity, mental, emotional, etc. And I often find that I'm one of the calmest people in the room, I'm one of the people with the most energy generally if I've had a chance to recharge. And so those boundaries are super important. And I do it through multiple ways, whether it's, not attending all the work dinners and functions, whether it's blocking off time on my calendar to recharge, or whether it's saying no to something that's really just not a priority. And the legal industry and most professional services say as part of their strategy that their people are their most important resource, right? Our
Sure.
clients and our people, our
Yeah.
clients and our people. You hear it over and over again, but we don't do enough to make sure our people are able to get what they need in order to protect their well-being. We tend to box people in and tell them, you need to be at the dinners in order to build relationships. You need to work the long hours no matter what in order to be promoted. And if the legal industry could change one thing, it would be understanding that if your people are your greatest resource, and your people are diverse. They come from multiple backgrounds. They have multiple life experiences.
Mm.
And they have multiple things that are happening inside of them.
Yeah.
We need to make space for that, right? By
Yeah.
first, making it safe for people
Mm.
to share what areas of their life they want to protect or boundaries they want to set, and then creating natural ways for that to happen.